Greetings, YouTube. I read an article on Metafilter, I guess it was in May, yeah, and it was essentially about Sadiq Khan, the new mayor of the city of London. And it was basically talking about the fact that he's Labour, for the Labour Party. He's the former human rights lawyer. He's the son of a bus driver. So he's a Pakistani immigrant. So he knows the experience of having been the outlier of fighting for human rights, and he is the first Islamic mayor elected to the City of London. So it's a fairly major issue when it comes to the political structure of Britain. Um, and he came right out of the gate with a very progressive kind of a position and worldview. I've talked about the fact that he was banning body shaming ads on the tube in the City of London. So very supportive of making people feel included. Inclusion is something that I'm pretty much at the core of my political view. And whenever I open up one of these articles that have been sitting around in my idea file for a bit, and this is from like I think May 4th or something like that, I always go back to check and see if anyone has made any updated comments, because sometimes people will make comments long after the article actually posted. And there's a comment here from the 11th, a couple of comments, so they're after the original posting, but still last month. And there's two in here which I found very fascinating, but I'm also going to be referring one that was the purpose of this video, which is a slight introduction to U.S. politics from Maggie Haberman at the New York Times. Donald Trump says new London mayor could be exception to his ban on Muslims. Isn't that friggin' generous? Sadiq Khan, I don't want exception from ignorant Trump's Muslim ban. London mayor says presidential hopeful's policy to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. isn't just about me, which is a beautiful thing to say in the face of Trump's blatant and screaming theistic bigotry. And also, one of the first things that Khan's done as an official engagement as the mayor was to visit the Holocaust Memorial Day event. It can only be interpreted as a giant FU to the Islamists who vacillate between it never happened, it should have happened, and the Jews deserved it. And apparently, the Sadiq Khan is planning on leading a trade delegation to Israel itself, which is not only a comment toward the Islamists, but also towards those who are in the right in the Britain politics themselves, which is the purpose of this video. Because in the course of this comment section, someone wrote something, and it was one of the most beautifully succinct statements about white privilege and about bigotry and racism in our modern culture today. And then this may be talking about Britain, the UK, but it was equally applicable to the United States. And the statement is, I grow increasingly concerned with the ability of certain segments of the white population to integrate successfully with modernity. Now, this plays against a common refrain I hear from white supremacists and theistic bigots on a regular basis when talking about people from Muslim-dominated countries and their ethnicities, the ethnicities of the people from those countries. And they're often thinking, well, they can't function in the modern age. They're not integrating with modernity correctly, and their medieval mindset, which of course I've actually heard from the mouths of white Catholics. Yeah. And the idea that there are segments of the Caucasian population, the white folks, that are not integrating well into an inclusive worldview that allows all people to function together in a diverse tapestry of a culture, of a society, really hits the nail on the head for me. Because, again, a lot of socially conservative views are about, at best, standing still, not advancing in a progressive manner, not buying into and accepting diversity as a facet of reality, and often in in an attempt to move back, to move the goalposts of society back to a golden era when the white folks had even more power and authority than they have now, where the white voices of Christians and straight cisgender men were even louder than they are now. And of course, that also speaks to some of the political structures we have in the world today, where people have come to believe that if your voice is louder than someone else's, that makes you right. And that's bull. The truth does not require volume, but it must be heard. And when people speak, when the diverse tapestry of our society steps forward and says, "We will be here, we are here, we will not go away," they don't have to scream. At least they shouldn't, because the truth can whisper. And no matter how much you may try to drown it out, you can't. And I've also heard the idea that some people, and they're always referring to minority groups, who are speaking about their own plight, the oppression that they have and are suffering, and their want and desire for equality and equal representation in the law and political structures and academia and law enforcement and everything else. I also hear the idea that they cannot function in a modern society because, of course, they're measuring that metric against the established socially conservative white population. They say, well, see, these nice law-abiding white people. Well, yeah, well, the law-abiding white people that you're talking about are functioning within the fabric of a systemic and endemic racist and bigoted and sexist society. So they are committing atrocities against these minority groups and against women that you have just accepted because you were not a member of those groups. You're not a woman, and you're not a minority person. You don't see any problem with them being oppressed. So you can say that person over there is a nice, calm, white, law-abiding person whose existence is based upon misogyny and slavery and genocide. That they are standing on a mountain of bodies, which means they don't have a moral leg to stand on. So it makes me wonder if those white, straight, Christian, cisgender folks, most of which are yelling and screaming, which are men, can function in the modern world. I read a great graphic recently. It was a graphic of one of the protesters in Ferguson throwing a grenade back at the cops. It was a pepper spray grenade, or mace grenade, whatever the heck they use. He's throwing it back at them, and the graphic says, "You won't give us rights unless we give you riots." And that was also beautifully said. So yeah, I know that this video touched a number of different topics and it's somewhat broad, but these are concerns I've had and I'm having about the established social conservative society in America and the UK, and the rise of the right and the rise of blatant, open, ugly racism and theistic bigotry and homophobia and misogyny, that they've torn off all of the layers of coding, and now they're just being naked and ugly, and they're showing the world the horrible face that they've been hiding for so long, a face that is not is not an example of the modern world. It's far uglier than what is being shown by the groups they themselves are vilifying. So let's remember, the truth doesn't have to scream. The truth can come on a whisper.